Hey, Robert, welcome to the Hidden Wife podcast. Great to have you here today.
Lee, good to be here. Thanks for the invitation. You're early morning. I'm mid-afternoon.
Mid-afternoon. Yeah, the time zones are a killer, aren't they? Sometimes.
It makes
I
life
just
interesting.
I just traveled over there and it was interesting because I could look at my watch now and you can check out my time where I was and the Australian time where my family was. And yeah, it was about 3 hours ahead, but 3 hours in the future on
With
a
a
different
different
day.
day. Yeah, different
Yeah.
day. That's the clincher right there. Different day.
And that's how I calculated in my brain. But mate, pleasure to have you here. I'm really looking forward to discussing your work and particularly, well, relationships, I suppose, and men's health is where
Sure.
I'd like to dive. You've got a number of books out, which are all on Amazon, and for those listening, we'll stick links in the show notes.
Great.
No More Mr. Nice Guy, a proven plan for getting what you want in life. Love, Sex, and Life was your first book, and then you've had a number of books after that. But you're a family and relationship psychologist expert, I would say.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I got my doctorate in marriage and family therapy back in uh, 1984. So maybe 40 years ago. Actually, no, my math's off. Yeah, something like that. 40 years ago. Been doing marriage and I'm not a math major, but yeah, I'm a marriage and family therapy major.
And so you've been doing that for 40 years, right?
Probably spent about 25 years private practice doing marriage and family therapy. And really, since No More Mr. Nice Guy came out almost 25 years ago, um, pretty much all my work's been with men. Still a lot of it around relationship, whether it be around dating, men trying to, find the relationships they want, men in relationship, whether they're having struggles or relationships just ended.
Yeah.
So a lot of my work really does focus on relationship and sexuality.
Yeah. The yeah, it's fascinating arena at the moment, I believe, with relationships and the whole global phenomenon that's sort of shifting everything at the moment. And I don't know if it stemmed off the back of COVID, but I think it's just been building up. And I certainly have felt and noticed and experienced myself and observing a lot of changes that have happened in that particular period of time. And since then, you've been doing this for 40 years. I want to ask you the first question is what got you to write No More Mr. Nice Guy?
Um, I didn't set out to write a book. I actually what really got it going. I was about 2 years into my second marriage, 3 years into it, and my then wife said to me, "Everybody thinks you're a nice guy, but you're not. I can't trust you. You can be passive aggressive. I can't depend on you. You embarrass me in public. You let me down. You don't follow through. You need help." And she goes, "I'm going to leave you if you don't get help." I go, "Oh, wait a minute. I'm the one that's always trying to make you happy. You're the one that's always unhappy. How come I need help?" I thought, okay, I'll go get help. And actually, I went looking for help. She said, "You're a sex addict. You need to go find a sex addict group." I go, "Okay, we never have sex. How can I be a sex addict?" So I went trying to find answers why me being a nice guy didn't make my wife happy and didn't make her appreciate me and didn't make her want to have sex with me.
So you
And
felt you were a nice guy?
yeah, I would have told you that. I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nice guys you meet. I do everything to make her happy. I try to please her. I'm not like my, selfish, narcissistic father. I'm not like all those asshole men women complain about that they only want one thing. I'm not that guy. And I'm generous. I'm patient. I'm kind. I don't like to fight. I was conflict avoidant. I thought that made me a good guy. Um, and but I wasn't honest. I wasn't dependable. I had hidden covert contracts, hidden agendas. I gave to get. I was manipulative. So luckily, I landed in some really good places, some good groups, some good therapy, where I started realizing my whole "I'm a nice guy" pattern, my whole paradigm for life. If I'm just a good guy, I'll be liked and loved and get my needs met, didn't serve me well. And it didn't actually make me a nice guy.
Hmm.
And at that
Interesting.
time, I was in therapy myself, in men's groups myself, really learning about my patterns, why they didn't serve me very well. And I was in private practice as a marriage and family therapist, and guys were coming to me for therapy. When you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So all of a sudden, I saw nice guys everywhere. Guys would come to therapy with their wives or girlfriends saying, I'm a nice guy. I treat her
Yeah.
better than her ex. I'm raising her kids. I buy her the new car she wants. I give her everything she wants. She's never happy. It's never good enough. When's it going to be my turn? How come she never wants to have sex anymore? She's always angry. And I thought, I'm not the only one who like thinks like this, and I'm not the only one with this problem.
Mm.
Now, also there was other men coming to me, but because I was mainly a relationship-oriented guy, it took me a little bit to connect the
So
dots with these
dealing with
other
couples
guys.
or predominantly
Mainly,
dealing with
yeah.
couples? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, mainly. I
Yeah.
saw individuals as well. So I'd get some men who'd say, I'm a nice guy. I have lots of female friends. They all tell me I'm great. I'm amazing. I'm a good listener. And they all say, oh, some woman's going to be so lucky to have you someday. But the guys go, but they don't want to be my girlfriend. You know, they think
Mm.
I'm amazing, but they don't. So I didn't put it together that, oh, these were all the same thing. It was men thinking if I'm nice, if I'm kind, if I'm different than other men, if I listen to women talk about their problems, if I'm giving, if I help them solve their problems, they'll love me. They'll want to be with me. They'll be grateful. They'll be appreciative. And so what I did with these men is I started a No More Mr. Nice Guy men's group. We met every other Wednesday, and then I soon added another one. And what I did, I was just I didn't realize it at the time, but I had always written to kind of express myself. I never thought of myself as a writer, but I just started writing chapters. Nowadays, we'd probably call them blog articles. I just gave them chapters of what I was learning about nice guys, what I was learning about me, what I was seeing in the men I worked with. How did we get to be this way? Why didn't it work? What's a better way of interacting with the world? And I just kept giving these chapters to the guys when we'd meet every other Wednesday. And over time, they and often their wives and girlfriends said, Robert, you need to write a book. You need to go on Oprah. This could be a bestseller. You know, a lot of people need this. So it took about 6, 7 years to write it,
Wow.
about
Yeah.
3 years of hustling it to finally get a publisher to get it published. It came out in print in 2000, early 2003. And
Yep.
now 20 plus years later, my royalty checks keep going up every year. So the book keeps selling more and more. I keep going on interviews and talking about it. So
So
it
still
it
very
re
relevant information
I think more so even today than it was
today.
25 years ago. I think it's more relevant.
Do you see a shift in men's health and their relationships in this world?
Everything seems to be shifting, as you
Yeah.
kind of alluded to. As you said, COVID probably really put a lot of those things under a pressure cooker.
How do
Either
you see
guys
it
that,
from your perspective? Like,
in terms of the shift or
yeah,
COVID or both.
just what's
Um,
changing in your views? Because I guess I've got my own perspective of everything, right? So,
well, here's kind of the bigger things I would see. When I started working with nice guys, so like 30 years ago,
yeah.
a lot of the men I talked to reported one of two patterns with their father, for example. One was either their father was absent, either because divorced or worked all the time, or just not there.
Hmm.
The other pattern was dad was dangerous. He was alcoholic, angry, abusive, didn't feel safe with dad. That's the most common pattern I've heard
Okay.
25 years ago. Nowadays, especially with younger men that we might call uh, um, millennials or Generation Z. My son is 39, so he'd be a millennial.
Okay.
What I hear from a lot of the young men is, my dad was a nice guy. And really, all that their dads taught them was, don't piss off your mother. Because that's what dad was trying to avoid doing as well, is pissing off, their mother, his wife. So what's shifted is there's a lot more nice guys out there, kind of
Yep.
turning out nice guy sons. Another a couple other big shifts. One would be kind of that where feminism has taken hold in a couple of different ways. One with kind of like the hashtag Me Too movement that was really big in America. I don't think it was quite so big in
Yeah.
Europe or some other countries. America was a big deal. And then followed that with the toxic masculinity meme and everything about patriarchy's evil, to where now young men growing up, and throw social media in that,
Yeah.
where young men growing up basically have been told everything about being male is bad. And if and so they've repressed more and more of their masculinity. They don't even know what it means to be male. Dad taught them, don't piss off your mom. Social media's taught them, don't piss off women. Hashtag Me Too taught them, don't piss off women. So a lot of guys are just walking around trying to not do anything to upset a woman, whether it be at school, the workplace, relationship, if they have one, which is the other big shift is more and more men don't have relationships. And
Yeah.
more and more men don't have jobs and don't even have much of a future because of just some major shifts culturally in terms of men being less prepared, getting fewer advanced degrees, governmental decrees that corporations have to hire more women, more minorities, things like that, to where more and more men not only don't have a future, don't have a job, or if they do have a job, is perhaps menial, and they don't feel they have enough status to get a woman at all, or the kind of woman they want. So statistically, more and more men report not having had sex in the last year, not that more and more report not being in a relationship for multiple years. The age of first marriage is going up. More and more men aren't marrying at all, which means more and more women aren't marrying at all. As the women's status and income rises, they tend to want men that match their status and income, but they don't tend to want that until they're pushing 40 or in their 40s. And now it's time for me to make babies. And now all of a sudden they go looking for a guy, and all they can find is either the men that have kind of been washed out of the system and kind of given up, or the men that have a high enough status that they don't want the 40-year-old woman that's all of a sudden ready to have babies.
Yeah.
They
Right.
can
Well
they can go
explained.
get all the 25-year-olds that they want.
Yeah.
So all of this, there's so many shifts going on. And I'm not trying, I really avoid playing any kind of victim role that, oh, poor men or poor this. But what's happened is a lot less men are in relationship, a lot more men are depressed, a lot more men are committing suicide, a lot more men are living alone with no hope of ever having a relationship.
Hmm.
More and more men just turn to pornography, sex workers to try to get some sort of sexual access. Um, it is it's sad. I mean, there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going
I was
on
just
with
about to
that's
say
really
that same
challenging for
word.
men.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I see that locally here in Australia, men without relationships, without sex, avoiding women because we sort of, and I'm in this group, right? So we sort of don't know what to do, how to
Yeah.
approach a woman because, we feel like we might be approaching them and considered a pervert or, whatever it might be. And women, on the same hand, I don't know, they've gone through a big shift as well, and their approach to men has seemed to shifted, but particularly men and their purpose in life because of this
Yeah.
relationship dynamics have changing. I see it, and that's why men's suicide rates are quite high, and that's a big issue, and I think it comes down to dealing with men's health and this particular topic.
And that's, I've been working with men, for many years. And for the last
Mm,
20 plus years, that's been my entire gig, is just working with men, whether it be through a men's membership program that I launched a year or so ago, workshops and retreats for men, writing for men, classes for men. Number one, I just love working with men.
yeah,
And I just love seeing it when the light bulb goes off in a guy's head. He gets it. He understands why something hasn't been working. He's ready to put it into action, ready to put it into place. He sees results from changing either his paradigms, his roadmap, or his behaviors. And I just love that dynamic of working with men. And I don't know that I saw this kind of state that we're in now coming, that men were going to be so isolated, so lonely, so resentful, so frustrated, so angry, so helpless. It makes sense that I don't know that I saw like hashtag Me Too or the whole social media thing where men, can have the illusion of having connection, but really they're in isolation. Or if they do something in relationship that either a casual person they're with or a partner, all of a sudden now it's going to, blow them up on social media. And I
yeah,
have friends, I have friends, they break up with their girlfriends and their girlfriends just blow it up on social media and just, air all the dirty laundry out there to the world. So I think, there's good reason for men to be cautious. One guy interviewing me, a young guy who mainly works like with very young men. And this guy's, kind of, he grew up with the internet. He's probably 20 years old doing the interview with me. And he said, what suggestion would you give to a guy who's 18, likes a girl, wants to, pursue something with her, has the impulse to like, ask her out, take her hand, try to kiss her, put his arm around her, the things that a guy has to do to actually get a relationship moving forward. And to know that anything he does, the woman might just blow that up on social media, might
Mm.
say, he violated me, he abused me, he raped me, or he was clumsy and he's got a small dick. What would you tell men? I go, fuck if I know. I don't know what I would do in that situation. But that's the real world that especially younger men who live and breathe, on social media are dealing with, that everything they do, even if it's well-meaning or clumsy, it's going to get put in the spotlight for the world to see. And there's no recourse of even like defending yourself or saying, that's not what happened, or that's not what I meant. And so was my suggestion to men in that case, either get off social media and don't give a fuck about what anybody thinks, which I'm not on social media, so I don't
Yeah.
give a fuck. Um, or, hide out and keep looking at a lot of pornography. That seems to be about the only other
I
alternative,
the two
which
options.
which of course isn't, a very, actually it probably is a pretty intriguing option for a lot of men nowadays. But the thing is, we're at our best when we have relationship. And
Mm.
I'm not saying we have to be in a long-term monogamous relationship, but when we're connected as human beings, connected to other men, connected to women, have sexual access, we feel the best. We're the most productive. We're the most optimistic. It brings out the best in us. So when
Mm.
those options don't seem open to a man, it brings out the worst in him.
Hmm.
And you can see that. You can see it on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
You can see it in men's behavior, in general. You can see it in, white supremacy. You can see it in, nationalism. You can see it, in hate crimes. You can see it in all kinds of ways
Well, you
when
can.
men don't feel connected and don't feel like they have opportunity and social sexual access.
Mm. The evolutionary dynamics have really, impacted this whole men's health issue, because you're right. I think we needed to have that female relationship in place to be our best selves. And I don't know the evolutionary history of it all, but from what I can see is that without a spouse or a relationship with a partner, female partner, and that sexual partner as well. And again, I don't mean to put it out there that men need sex every single day, but
Well,
it
but
seems to
we
be a
need
very big
sexual
requirement.
access.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need some sense of predictability of sexual access. That's just built into us. All animals are that way.
Yeah.
Every animal, uh, you know, uh, repeats itself. Creates
Mm.
after its own kind.
Mm.
And I joke with my religious friends because I have 2 degrees in religion. I was a minister
Right.
for about 8 years.
Yeah.
I'll ask them. I said, what was the first commandment God gave to Adam and Eve? And most people think, well, it was like, don't eat of the fruit of good and evil. I go, actually, it was go fuck a lot. And
Mm.
people look at me like, what are you talking about? The first commandment that God in the Bible gave to Adam and Eve was be fruitful and multiply. Go have sex, is what he said. It's wired into us, whether we see that from an evolutionary point of view, religious point of view, we're wired to have sex. And when human beings don't have a predictable channel and accessibility to sex, that's still going to go somewhere. That's still
Yeah.
such a strong drive. So it's
Mm.
going to get manifest, usually in hidden, secretive, shameful, guilt-inducing ways, rather than in loving, celebratory kind of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
And again, I don't like to play victim or blame anybody, and I don't really blame anybody. It really
Mm.
is some cultural dynamics. But for me, I actually am optimistic. I think we've seen some pendulum swings. Like, for example, for the last 10,000 years under what's commonly called the patriarchy, where where had monogamous marriage and where men were kind of had this ownership mentality of things and their wife and their wife's vagina and their kids. we've swung from this kind of patriarchal model way over to the other extreme that everything about patriarchy is bad, everything about men is bad. And the whole toxic masculinity,
Yeah.
hashtag me too, all of that. And people I think, well, we'll swing back and find some middle ground. But I've always said I don't know where the tipping point is between two toxic extremes. So I
Yeah.
don't think we're actually going to swing back and find a middle ground. That would just be, well, let's just keep some of this that sucks and keep some of this that sucks, and maybe we'll have something that doesn't suck as bad. But
Yeah.
the truth is, I think we have to rise up and find something above, which I think that's what's happening. I
Right.
see so much more, so many more movements and coaches and podcasts about men and women becoming their best selves, becoming more conscious, becoming more open-hearted, becoming more authentic, more expressive in healthy ways, taking accountability for their actions in their lives, asking for what they want,
Yeah.
putting themselves in a position to get what they want. I see a really amazing shift happening right now. It's not
You
like I
do.
see it going to happen in 5 or 10 years. It's happening now. Just the fact I get invited to speak on so many, self-improvement type interview podcasts
Yeah.
says that we're interested in leveling up to our best
How do,
selves and
how do you
having our
feel
best
that?
lives.
How do you feel that women are feeling? Because that's a point of view that I can't really talk on, but other than from a men's perspective, like I feel like that they're pushing men away and almost hating men, right? That's kind of the feeling, the vibe I get, and like we don't need men in our lives, and we're happy with that. Even though I think that in their lives, it's a big important part as well, just as much as men having a female in their life.
And again, since I'm not a woman, I will speak very cautiously about what
Yeah.
women might be experiencing. When I was growing up, I'm 68, going on 69. So I grew up during the 60s and 70s, kind of, the whole, revolution going on. I was the tail end of it. Um, and, we're maybe probably it's called second wave feminism. It was an angry feminism. Every man's a rapist. An erection's a sign of aggression. The best, woman for best man for a job is a woman. Where there's a lot of anger towards
Mm.
men built into feminism. And I grew up thinking I was kind of a feminist because I thought, well, yeah, I mean, my mother was probably a first wave feminist and that she taught me, to be different from my father and be kind and caring to women, and taught her daughters to be independent, not need a man. And, years later, when I talk to women who say, well, I'm a feminist, and I go, well, do you hate men? She goes, no, actually, I don't hate men at all. Why do you think that? I go, because all the feminism I heard growing up was a lot of hatred towards men. And she
Mm.
goes, oh, that was just a few angry, pissed off, really vocal people, but not every feminist was pissed off at men. We just, said we need change. I agree with that. We needed change.
Yeah.
So what I came to find out is just because there's some loud voices doesn't mean that represents everybody.
Yeah.
And I think now we've gone through another angry phase of feminism where everything's toxic masculine, everything about men is evil. These men are the cause of all problems in the world. Patriarchy is the cause of all problems. And I think we're still hearing from the angry fringe of feminism or woke movement, whatever you want to call it. And I think what's easy to happen because these voices now sound so ubiquitous or everywhere because of social media, because of these voices now have platform in mainstream media. I think, it's easy to think, well, all women hate men and think men are evil.
Mm.
And I don't actually think that's the case. Now, have most women had painful experiences in regard to men? Yeah, probably. Probably began with dad, when dad let them down, hurt them in some way, abandoned them in some way.
Yeah.
Did they get hurt when their first boyfriend, you know, said he loved them and then had sex with her and she never heard from him again? Yeah, that probably got hurt in that way. Have they maybe been abused by men? Probably any number of them have. Now, we could also go down the same checklist of men talking about, have you had a woman do this to you, a woman do that? And because I did a presentation at a retreat back in June where I had everybody raise their hand. It was men and women at this. It was probably 150 people. have you ever been lied to? Have you ever been cheated on? Have you ever been accused of things you haven't done? Have you ever been hurt? Have you ever been abandoned? Ever been left? And,
Yeah.
to each question, everybody raised their hand, men and women. And then I asked everybody, have you ever cheated on anybody? Have you ever lied to anybody? Have you ever accused them of something they didn't do? Have you ever left them? Have you ever ghosted them? And everybody raised their hand. So I said, we're all clumsy lovers. We're all terrible at this thing of how do you do relationships with the opposite sex. And because we're so clumsy at it, we all get bumps and bruises and hurts and wounds and trauma, right? We all do. Now, we can either react to that by closing off or lashing out, or, as I know this might get me in trouble, turning to same-sex relationships instead of the opposite sex. And I think that happens both with men and
Yep.
women. Men
Hmm.
saying, I'm done with women, or women going, I don't need a guy, I can get more love from a girl. Amazing, great, wonderful. It's an option. But I don't think all men hate women, and I don't think all women hate men. Have we all been hurt? And then do we then project our hurts onto that gender as a whole? Yeah, we probably all do.
Hmm.
Men got hurt by a woman or two, and now all women are representative of those two or three women that
Yeah, yeah,
lost.
yeah, yeah.
Women, same way. Been hurt by a few men. Now, do all men become a stand-in for those few men?
And that's
Probably
just
so.
escalated, right? And with social media, it's certainly not
We
helping.
can just blow it up. If you, I love it. I'm a trained therapist, and I'm not a diagnostician, but I've seen a lot of stuff as a
Yeah.
therapist, right?
Hmm.
What amazes me nowadays is almost everybody on the internet that breaks up. If it's a woman, their ex is usually a sociopath or a narcissist. If it's a man, the woman is either a borderline personality or a narcissist. And I'm going, are there really that many borderlines, narcissists, and sociopaths out there? And they're all dating and they're all, with people on social media. Everybody's an amateur diagnostician now. And you know what? As a therapist for 40 years, I probably have met maybe two or three true narcissists in my therapy practice.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, everybody that breaks up with their ex, oh, they're a narcissist. No, probably we're all just clumsy lovers. We're all not very good at this. We're all have our guards up. We're all trying to protect ourselves. We're all crappy communicators. Um, and we're all trying to do something that doesn't come easy. That is, two people of the opposite sex trying to come together and have a relationship with probably two very different agendas for being together, probably some overlap, but a lot of, divergence as well, and thinking we should be able to live in close proximity, get along well, always have sexual passion, always feel loving towards each other, never get on each other's nerves, never get tired of each other, never notice anyone out there that actually looks kind of better, either on social media or just walking down the street or through a mall. We
Yeah.
think all this should work. And the truth of it is, it's difficult, it's challenging. We're not built for it. But yet the expectation is we should just easily find somebody, fall in love, and stay in love for the rest of our lives. That's a mythology that never has existed, never will, but we think we should be able to do that. And when it doesn't work out, well, it's either got to be my fault or it's their fault. And I don't like walking around thinking it's my fault all the time. So it must be their fault.
Yeah.
And so we got a
Gotcha.
we got a
Well
whole world of
explained.
people walking around. It's their fault that, this didn't work out. While deeply inside thinking, well, maybe it was me. Maybe I'm not good looking enough. Maybe I'm not sexy enough. Maybe I'm not good enough in bed. Maybe I'm too boring. Maybe I'm not interesting enough. And so then we're either kind of dwelling on why I wasn't good enough to make it work, or why all those other people of that gender are the problem. And luckily, I'm an optimist, and I really do think we're on our way through that.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, but it is still pretty messy right now.
It's a journey. So what, I'm just conscious of time, but to give a few tips and advice for men out there, what can we do to better improve our situation and particularly everyone's situation, but the relationships we're in?
My number one answer is go connect with men.
Yep.
And to me, it's a no-brainer. Now, it's not the first thing that comes to men's mind, because we think, well, I want connection. That must mean I need a woman because I do want to have sex. So we go seeking for women's approval, or we don't because we don't know how to get it, so we don't connect with anybody. And
Yeah.
social media is just it's like junk food. It's not really real connection. Like junk food isn't real food. So, our ancestors, our human ancestors, for 1.5 million years, our great, 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 great grandfathers, in tribal times, the men connected with men. The men went out and hunted and gathered and fought
Yeah.
wars against other men.
Yeah.
The
Makes
women
sense.
huddled and raised the babies and waited for the guys to come back. I'm
Mm.
not saying we need to go back to caveman roles.
Yeah.
I'm just saying 1.5 million years of evolution wired women to connect with women, men to connect with men, and just come together for shortest amount of time to connect, copulate, and move on. And then about 10,000 years ago, we started trying to do this thing where one man, one woman would go shack up in the same house and try not to kill each other. But for, most of that 10,000 years, people got together and stayed together purely out of economic need.
Yeah.
Love didn't even come along till about 200 years ago. And Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet to show the fallacy of relationship built on romantic love. Oh, we love each other so much, let's kill ourselves.
Yeah.
That was the message of Romeo and Juliet. So, what's the first and most basic answer? Get connected with men. That's why I
Yeah.
have a men's program, why I lead. I have a workshop coming up starting tomorrow in my home with 8 guys. I've been leading men's groups for years. When I was in private practice, I did 5 men's groups a week. When men go connect with men, we
Hmm.
get our most basic needs met. We get our bucket filled. We get affirmed. We get valued. We get loved on. We can be honest with each other. We can be real with each other because we're not doing what I call maintaining the possibility of availability. Like with men, we're not thinking about having sex with them, so we don't care if we piss them off or if they're pissed off with us. If we get the foundation built with men, we're full, we're filled, and from that overflow, we can attract women into our life who are drawn to this man who doesn't need them, who's confident, who's full, who's going places, who he knows where he's going. He's comfortable in his own skin. Why? Because he's connected and supported and held accountable by other
Yeah.
men.
Yeah.
And that's really attractive to the feminine. We don't have to chase women when we're connected with men. We got everything we need. A woman's the icing on the cake, and the woman senses that and wants to be the icing on that cake.
Right. Makes sense. Connection is a big issue, right?
Is the issue. It
Yeah.
is the issue.
It is the issue. And okay, so that's connection. What else can we do?
I tell men, as adults, we are responsible for getting our needs met. And when we were dependent, needy little children, that was mom and dad's job. That's done. But what happens is because no one taught us how to get our needs met, make our needs a priority, surround ourselves with people, professionals, practices to help fill our bucket and get our needs met.
Yeah.
A lot of adults, not just men, grow up. Women actually usually are better at this, but most men have no clue of how to make their needs a priority. I'll
Yeah.
talk with men about getting their needs met, and they'll look at me like, "What are you talking about? I don't even know what my needs are." And really, literally, they'll just like stare at me like, I have no clue what you're even talking about. And so that is essential. Again, it goes back to getting our bucket filled. I exercise to meet my needs. I eat healthy. I get enough sleep. I spend time with friends. I'm involved in work that I love. I take my dog for a walk every morning with my wife, and we enjoy doing that. I visit with my family. I stay connected to men. I do meditation. I read for pleasure. I write in my journal. I spend time in nature. I float in my pool. All of these things help fill my needs up to, again, make me happy and make me optimistic about this world and my life.
Mm.
And it makes me attractive. It makes me attractive to my wife. It makes me attractive to other women because my jealous Latina wife always points out other women that are flirting with me, usually women that are much younger than me. Why? Because I don't need them. I'm full. I've taken responsibility for getting my needs met, filling my bucket, and surrounding myself with people, practices, groups who all want to help me get my needs met. Now, some people I pay, like my dentist, my doctor, my chiropractor, my accountant, my attorneys, my employees. I pay them to help me
Yeah.
get my needs met. But a
Yeah.
lot of people, we just enjoy hanging out with each other. I probably got 25 to 50 guy friends that any given time we're connecting, we're online. I'm going to have half a dozen guys come to my house in December to come to have a writer's retreat with me. I go visit my friends. They come here and visit me. I do workshops. I go to workshops. I'm around men that I love. And again, both so that two things, connect with men, make your needs a priority, and take full responsibility for getting those needs met on a regular basis.
Good advice. I'm going to direct people to the book there, No More Mr. Nice Guy, and the recent one too, which was co-authored with Tony Endelman.
Yeah, the big stick. And
The
he's
Big
in New
Stick.
Orleans. You were just in New Orleans.
I
He's a New
was.
Orleans guy.
There you go. Mate, pleasure speaking with you today. Appreciate your time coming on the show.
Thanks for the invitation. This was great fun.
How can people best reach you?
Either at drglover.com,
Yep.
drglover.com, or
Yep.
integrationnation.net, which is my men's program, integrationnation.net.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'll check that out as well. And I'll stick the links in the show notes, guys. So check it out at thehiddenwhy.com. And until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon.
Lee, thank you.
Thank you.